Jeff, it is good to see you, my friend. Here's an interesting topic. So lately I've been seeing a lot of these sales statistics that say, 30, 35, 39% of enterprise sellers are hitting their number, right? You read all the time that a very small percentage of sellers are actually meeting objectives and quotas. But yet, in my findings, I've always found that people don't gravitate toward the best sellers. People don't gravitate toward the processes that the tried and true folks are using. They go to these, these methods, these trainings from the organization that aren't necessarily working, or they gravitate toward just what I like to call comfortable ways of mediocrity or failing. Why do you think enterprise sellers or just sellers in general aren't more scrappy and resourceful?
Yeah, Carson, good to see you again. It's been a little while, so it's nice to be back. It's a great topic. I'll start with like a little story just from my own career. And when I first entered the workforce, I joined a company called Scavenger. A company would actually end up pivoting into a product called Level Up, and many years later was acquired by Grubhub for I think $400 million. But when I joined, it was right before the pivot. And after the company pivoted, I was one of the people that actually stayed on selling this legacy product during the pivot because they were maintaining both revenue streams. And while I did have some training on sales, in terms of cold calling and some things around messaging and things like that, I was actually kind of left to my own devices because of this pivot to figure out my own process. I was kind of on my own little island doing my own thing. I managed this vertical for higher education. It was actually the biggest vertical in the company. We had over 300 higher education customers, but they kind of just said, "Hey, Jeff, run along with this." And in a way, that was a bad thing for obvious reasons because I just graduated from college and I had no idea what I was doing. But in a way, it was also kind of a blessing because I got foisted into this opportunity that was like above my pay grade. And I was kind of forced to like figure out my own way of doing things. And then to be sure, as time has gone on and I've taken on mentors and professional development and so on, I've had more formal education. But in a way, I'm kind of grateful that I didn't start from that. And I know that sounds really counterintuitive to people, but I'm grateful that I kind of like had my own way of doing things and then started integrating best practices along the way. Because I think when you're too mentally committed to following like a specific process, um, it can be hard to deviate when the going gets tough. It can be hard to get creative and get outside of your comfort zone for fear that you are not following these things that were like hard coded into you at the beginning of your career. And throughout my career, I've been forced to do like creative things. Like when the going got tough during COVID and we were struggling to book meetings, we started using Cameo, and we started booking cameos with like C-list celebrities to people that like loved these celebrities. And lo and behold, it was a great way to stand out from the pack and break through the noise and book meetings. When I really need to see a customer in person, I'll tell them I'm going to be in your city. Sometimes it's not even true, but if they say yes, I'm going to be in their city, right? And so there's things that I think just require you to go above and beyond whatever your process is. And I think for a lot of folks, they're not comfortable doing that. I think especially in enterprise settings where it can feel you have this perception that a lot of things are outside of your control, that all it takes is one person in the stakeholder committee to blow it up for you, right? And I think that people sometimes adopt this defeatist feeling about their opportunities, or this nihilistic feeling where there's only so much that they can do, when the reality is that the way that you should be approaching every enterprise opportunity is through the lens of paranoia. What are the things that can make this go wrong, and then attacking those things head first. In other words, not thinking about it through the lens of happy years and what's going well, but where are my areas of risk? And then how can I go and proactively de-risk those areas? So that's the way that I think about this. Not perfect at it by any means. I've struggled, like anyone has over the last year. It's been tough out there. But those are my thoughts and suggestions. Would love to hear yours.
I don't even think I need to go, Jeff. That was so good. And by the way, I'm a Z-list celebrity on Cameo. Look me up. I've got this one guy who every year for his birthday he orders me. I don't know how to feel about that. So I that's exactly it because I feel like sales feels so formulaic sometimes, but yet the formula clearly isn't working if you look at the outcomes. And that's why I wonder why, I remember I used to do these big speeches in front of sales teams and in a call center, and I always ask everybody to like raise their hand if they were 100% satisfied with their results. And inevitably, there was that one smart aleck who would raise his hand, and I'd be like, "That's fine, you can be satisfied this week, but let's talk next week." But by and large, most people were not satisfied with their results. But why is it that they were so unwilling to risk results that they were dissatisfied with by taking on some way that might make them better? And it's not built into the system. To your point, when I started out in a call center, I was sink or swim. I moved away from home, started this new gig, and I was one of the only people in my training class, one of two out of 12, that weren't from inside the organization and didn't have retreat rights. Everybody left within 2 weeks. The training was so daunting. And so it was only me and this other person left that were from off the street. And it was sink or swim for me. So I had to learn how to be successful. And it was a very scripted environment. So, I didn't follow the script though to a T because I always tried to listen and study. And that's one thing when I look back at my career in hindsight that I've always just been a student of. To your point, Jeff, we can't control a lot of these things. But if you approach sales like you approach a game of cards, there's odds and probabilities that are involved. And if you're paying attention, you're not playing the cards. You can't control what cards you're dealt, but you can control what you do with the hand. And you can also control what you anticipate the other players in the mix to do. Now, by no means are we playing against our colleagues and playing against our customers, but what we are doing is being students of human moves. We're paying attention to what they're doing and what they're saying. And if I know that a customer is absolutely not going to bite off on this huge package that I have to sell them, but I heard a need that enabled me to sell this component, I'm going after that component because I don't want to offer this gargantuan package that they've already discredited because then that diminishes my credibility. I got written up early on in my sales career because I wouldn't follow the script. I stopped doing my free will, greenlit sales approach, and my sales plummeted. And then shortly thereafter, they saw that and removed the plan, and I became the top rep in the office. I was promoted multiple times, and I've been benefited from very similar to you, Jeff, roles that were unique, roles that were relatively brand new. So I was kind of writing the blueprint, and I had to figure out how to be successful. I've always looked at what are the customers saying as to why they don't want to do business, why they don't want to talk to me. And I would attack every part of that sales plan or that sales cycle where we were stumbling and falling. If I'm cold calling and they were telling me no, or they were hanging up on me for a certain reason, I would tweak that part of it. And then I would get rock solid at that intro and earn my right to the next phase of the game. Once I got there, then I started doing discovery, figuring out what works, what doesn't. You learn from all of those, and then you're able to draw from previous experiences. Hey, when I talk to other people in your position, this is what they tell me all the time. These are the challenges that they're facing. This is the ROI that they have to prove. This is why they won't make the risks, things of that stature. I want to help you win, and I want to empower you to win. And I also don't want to force you into a position to sell this to your leadership. That has helped me forge genuine relationships in sales. But I think a lot of people don't approach it like that. And I will also say that I think leadership sets the tone. Leadership has the responsibility of setting a culture of good, effective sales training, which means let's train it right, but let's also follow up and ensure that it's being done and people aren't going back to those comfortable ways of failure. But furthermore, that we're not just barking at people saying, sell more widgets, follow the script. No, I've actually had people. I remember somebody that was the last draft pick one time. We used to do draft picks, and because I had the top team, I'd always get the last draft pick. And nobody wanted this person. They wound up on my team. And rather than just give them some formulaic script, we wrote a script together in their voice where they were able to hit on everything that they needed to hit on. That person won Fortune 500 the first quarter they were on the phones. And it was because they found their sales voice. I think a lot of people won't do some of these things that other people are doing successfully because they don't want to change. They're not willing to put forth the effort. They seek this mythical thing called work-life balance. And I got to tell you, it's not a work-life balance, it's a work-life rhythm, it's a work-life flow. I have a very good ability to weave in and out of my personal life and my work life. I get everything done. And you have to find a level of contentment. But I got to tell you, if you're floundering at work, your home life isn't going to be that great. And on the flip side of that, a lot of times, if you're not focused on your home life, you invest. I look at work and I look at my acumen and what I want to get better at and what I want to improve in and all of my relationships, kind of like stocks. I've got to invest in them continually. And you can't control which ones are going to grow, but that goes back to the very element of what we were just talking about sales. I can't control what outcome is going to be, but if I control what I put into it and that I'm always learning, that I'm always trying to find who's better than me at this or that, how can I take in all of that information and make myself like the T1000 of salespeople? And that's what I do each and every day. And I encourage everybody out there, are you satisfied with your results 100%? Because if you're not, go out there, think outside the box, do creative things, find ways that you can incorporate video, find ways that you can create relationships in ways and areas and arenas that you're not doing today. Build community around what you do. I've done it for years and it has always made me successful. I've never worried about a result a day in my life.
I love it. Well, my big takeaway here is my birthday's coming up in a week and a half, so I might need you to give me a cameo for it.
There you go. And mine is coming up in just over a week. So, fellow Scorpios, unite.
Awesome. Love it, Carson. Good to talk to you again.
Always, Jeff. We'll see you next time.